Hello, everyone, and welcome to Valley Strange. This is going to be our first episode of 2022, and today we're going to be talking about Cryptids of Texas. And today we have the same folks that would always join us. We have Darth Goggletron, Granditron, whichever you call yourself today.
Yeah, that fits for now.
And then
sure.
Dark Queen Drunk Daniel, thank you.
Hey,
everyone's back.
Everyone's
back. It's been a while since we've done since we've done a Valley Strange episode.
Mm-hmm.
Last episode we did was the Satanic Bible, which took a long time to get started and a long time to finish.
Yeah, and then we got hit by the holiday season, and all of us got just we always get hit in the face of that. We always have such great designs for December and January, and that's just like,
yeah. I mean, but to be fair, we are doing lots of other things as well. So, I mean, Valley Strange is not our only podcast that we do. So,
no,
but it does take the most effort and the most time to prepare for. So, here we are. We have talked about cryptids in the past. We have gone over the duendes and the lechuza. Lechuza was our first one. Duendes was the second. And we had concluded that the duende was kind of the overall cryptid.
Yeah.
It can shapeshift. It can take any form. So basically, it can almost take any form of the cryptids that we're going to mention here.
Yeah, and I think we even made an argument about, and it was probably me because Bigfoot rules, and but that potentially a duende can be a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So any of these cryptids, they may just be these changelings at their core. That, or you go to the interdimensional hypothesis, and they appear however they want to. So,
right.
I mean, because I believe cryptozoologists / ufologists, because I'm thinking like, what's that cat's name? Helps consult on fucking Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Jacques Vallée. I think Jacques Vallée and others have written about, that they can kind of just pick whatever form they want. And that's happened through time. So that's why angels look one way or whatever. So it's not necessarily just, interpretation of these things. It's also like how they manifest. But I don't know.
As Roland and I were kind of sharing or discussing last night, and he did send me some pictures or videos of artist rendering of what an actual angel would look like. Those almost look cryptid-like in nature as well, like really scary looking, almost Lovecraftian, if you will. Some of them do look very Lovecraftian type.
You just need more like reptile and amphibian themes of these angels, and then you got like Lovecraft, like in a nutshell.
Right, tentacles. Well, very much tentacles as well.
Oh, there's plenty of those. I think I've sent you some of those.
Or just big fish.
I want to get into a very basic knowledge of what a cryptid is, and that is going with the Merriam-Webster's dictionary version of a cryptid. And it's an animal such as the Sasquatch or Loch Ness Monsters, which probably are the most two famous cryptids ever, that has been claimed to exist but never proven to exist. So basically, any animal or anything that anyone has seen or claimed to have seen that doesn't resemble any animal that we already know in the science community, that is a cryptid. There's no proof of any existence. There's no proof of Bigfoot, technically. I mean,
no science.
It depends on who you're speaking to. Probably the Chupacabra is probably the one that people will say that they have, or they've shown pictures of a dead version of it. But I mean, we don't really know exactly what that technically would be. It could be a rabid dog.
And they've done like DNA tests and stuff, and they have found some goofy chupacabras in Texas as well.
Yeah. I mean, that could be like interbreeding with certain animals, don't you think? Like, I don't know.
Maybe, sure.
Yeah,
someone's doing the Island of Dr. Moreau type of shit,
But there is like an advanced form of mange that can hit certain kinds of dogs or whatever. So, and coyotes that really make them look freaky looking, and that has also been one of those things thrown out for in the case of chupacabras. Like, hey,
they have the red eyes, right?
This could account for that. Oh well, it's like really like classically, I think it's like only there are accounts of like red-eyed chupacabras in the States, but I believe most of the lore of the red-eyed kind of more reptile form was from Puerto Rico.
Yes, that one it's more like it's almost like a gargoyle-ish sort of reptile.
Mm-hmm. Like a gremlin, basically.
Yeah, they have a different I guess
relative. So kind of like I guess stateside chupacabras are seeming more like canine.
Piggybacking off the cryptid definition, we also have the study of cryptids, which is cryptid zoology.
Yeah, if there's cryptids, we need to have the study of.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is a university, as far as I read the other day, don't think I saved the link though, that has
a fucking degree.
Well, that has like
community college.
I don't know if it's a community college or not, but
I want to get my Bigfoot certificate, man.
Dude, I want to get my Bigfoot certificate.
Fuck yeah!
Are you kidding me?
Thing is, man, like there are the professional like esque research organizations. Like there's I can't remember what they call the Bigfoot one here in Texas, but there's also a national one. But I looked to apply to the state based one. Basically, I had to kind of quit because it is a volunteer basis, but it's also, they really make you like sell yourself. Like, what skills and assets do you have for us to even consider you being part of our organization? So I was like,
Texas Bigfoot Research Conservancy.
Yet. Well, I'm curious as to what experience or skills those other motherfuckers have.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
they started it, so they don't really have to have the skills, I assume.
Well, I think they're looking for folks that are kind of adept in tracking and woodscraft sort of stuff. There's also there's seem to be like armchair opportunities though, so they have like kind of like more research based kind of roles as well. So I was thinking like maybe I could swing for that.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, these guys are still going out, whenever they can to go, look for, Sasquatch. And it's fucking cool.
Just to cite one of our resources here, as opposed to just scouring the Wikipedias and internet articles, we do have a book by Nick Redfern and Ken Gerhard?
Gerhard?
Yeah, the Texas cryptid guy.
It's called The Monsters of Texas, and I'll hold it up here to the camera if we actually...
Yeah, I didn't know you got a copy, Ray, until I looked at the outline and saw you actually quote a page out of it on the Goatman, and I was like, oh,
no. This was the reason I got it in the first place, because Nick Redfern, I do have books from him, so do you.
As do I, yeah.
He's a frequenter of the Edinburgh UFO convention circuit. So I have seen him speak at the convention, of course, in Edinburgh.
I've been wanting to go to that damn convention since you first told me about it. But
Redfern lives in Texas too. He's in the Fort Worth area, I think, or
Dallas, I didn't know that either.
DFW area, somewhere up there.
So I mean, I don't think it's far fetched to him to like specifically research this area. And again, Ken Gerhard is from San Antonio, I believe. So
that sounds right.
They are just a pair writing this book about Texas.
Yes, he is a San Antonio native because he talked about growing up there and stuff. And
cool.
And which was funny, reading some of these passages or some of the chapters. Daniel, we were kind of like living in that particular area, a lot of the northwest side. They quoted some streets that were familiar to me.
Yeah, dude, some areas of San Antonio stuff like
Babcock, Loop 499, like. That was funny because like I was just thinking to myself, man, for a second when I was living there did I think to even go and
check out the Donkey Lake Bridge or whatever.
Exactly. I didn't know that even existed,
Word.
But or the lore existed.
Yeah, because all I heard about as far as like, spooky stuff would have been like all the stuff like
the ghost tours and whatnot.
Yeah, the ghost tours like
downtown,
King District or whatever the fuck it is. And then of course the urban legend about, the putting flour on the back of your windshield or rear windshield and get pushed over the tracks by ghost children or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun little spot as long as you ignore the Bud Light cans all over the place.
But to that point, Ray, and we can move on before we get to Super Nostalgiaville, but it was really crazy because they cited one intersection where I went, that was like 2 miles from where you and I lived in those apartments, dude. Like,
I think it was Huebner and Babcock. I think that was it. Yeah,
like it was like right there. I was like, son of a bitch.
I know I kind of entertained the idea briefly, but I didn't really think too much of it. The apartment complex that we were living at did have like a wooded area behind us. I don't know if you had the chance to go and rummage around, but I did. I went a few times back there, and there was always like, I'm almost certain there were people sleeping back there because I saw mattresses.
There were definitely hobo camps back there.
Yeah. And they're pretty secluded. I mean, no one's gonna find you unless they're actually looking for you. And on top of that, it was right near railroad tracks. You go over the tracks, and there's even more wooded area back there as well.
Yeah.
So that area is sweet.
There could have been, if there were any alleged Bigfoot sightings or something, they could have been there.
I could see that, dude.
Any sort of cryptid sighting back there.
There's all these weird pockets of almost like mini forests there, like little stands of trees all over the. Well, they're all over the place in San Antonio. It's really crazy, and
it can get like crazy dense.
All these like shopping plazas and stuff, and then like little wooded area.
Yeah, it's super super interesting, but. And I'd always wanted to go and sort of just wander around through those, but you got to be real careful because there are fucking like coyotes and all, like lots of wild animals and shit going through there. Though I mostly personally be worried about the fucking ticks and stuff jumping out or fleas and whatnot.
Probably.
That would bug me more than the wild animals.
It would bug you.
I had wanted to ask Ray, and I don't know if this would be worth mentioning here as we're talking about, but didn't you go on a ghost tour recently, not too long ago?
I went on a ghost hunt in Austin. Yes, I did. They didn't mention anything regarding any sort of cryptids or anything like that. It was always spirits from past residents of Austin. It was more of a history lesson as opposed to a ghost hunt.
Sure.
Although I will say the San Antonio ghost tour was a bit more dense than this one. They did stick to one place. The San Antonio one spanned a little bit more of downtown area.
Right.
And there's a lot more stuff going on.
I've heard about
that
one. I really want to check it out.
In Austin, mind you can't do too much downtown 6th Street, 7th Street, 8th Street. Like when you're just covering that small area, you're not going to get too much of it. So we're going to go and again, I did mention that we talked about the Lechuza and the Duendes.
Right.
Lechuza and Duendes we're not going to mention as far as like in this particular list because we've already talked about them. And
if you want to know about that, just go listen.
Yeah, check out our other episodes that we have. They're a deep dive into those particular cryptids. Here we're just going to give you kind of like a primer for cryptids in Texas.
And I want to say that because when we did the Duendes episode, like as far as just another just pitch for people to go check that episode out because we have a lot of fun with it for one, but secondly, we scoured for stuff on Duendes because there's not a whole lot known, and as far as just the amount of content we put in there about the Duende itself, I think there's only one other podcast I found that endeavored to go really deep into what a Duende is, and but there was a restriction on that because it is in the Spanish language, so like I had to like slow down Spotify and really pay attention, just because it
were they speaking very quickly.
Fairly, yeah. I don't remember where they were based, but it was pretty quick, and so I was like, okay, just take it back a half step and work through it.
And now a word from our sponsor.
In a world filled with human rights concerns, an incredibly special population of our world is ignored and abused, and here at MoQuest Law Offices, we will not abide! It's time to stand up, cryptids of the world. It's time to take back your rights and tell those pesky humans that you mean business by retaining the services of our specialists at MoQuest Law Offices. The Human Hammer! We are the world's foremost, nay, only experts in cryptid law. We protect cryptids of all shapes, shape-shifting, and multi-dimensional forms. Are you being shot at as you soar through the air? Cryptid law! Do you get called a Sasquatch when you are an abominable snowman? Cryptid law! Are you accused of crib swapping because someone's baby is too ugly? Cryptid law! We are the only law firm with the balls to stand up to the human race to protect innocent cryptids around this great nation. Cryptid law! If you are a supernatural entity with no representation, contact the MoQuest Law Offices at 555-666-7777 or email us at moquest@gmail.com. Remember, that's 555-666-7777 or email us at moquestlaw@gmail.com. That's MOKUEST@gmail.com. Cryptid Law, justice for everything. Show support of your local cryptids and Valley Strange podcast by purchasing your very own Cryptid Law merchandise. Visit teespring.com. Link will be in the episode description. And remember, Cryptid Law is justice for everything.
Cryptids in general do have there isn't any solid information on any of them to begin with, but a lot of them do overlap in characteristics.
Right. Yep. And we're gonna go through that here. A lot of them have similarities, right, to the Bigfoot, Goatman, Dogman.
Which goes back to our, Twindies as the ultimate cryptid.
Yeah.
I mean, they're one of the only examples of a cryptid that's almost present in most, if not all, cultures of that we can find in some form or another. So,
is this like appropriate to say that not all Bigfoots are Duendes, but all Duendes may be Bigfoots?
I think we had a very similar sentiment in the Duendes episode about
put that on the back of it. Should put that on the back of a shirt.
And it's been so long since we did that episode that I don't remember half the stuff that we said in there. But I mean, some stuff, not all of it. To start off our cryptids list, we're gonna go with the most famous cryptid of all, Bigfoot. Bigfoot is basically more known for what North Pacific Northwest
area,
type of area,
Oregon, Washington for sure. Bits of California, because I mean that's where the Patterson film was taken or shot.
Oh, right. Okay, I got it backwards. I don't know why I was.
It was in Bluff Creek, California, in 1967. The famous Bigfoot footage of him.
And I'm not sure. And I've actually, I'm a poor scholar of Bigfoot because I've never looked to see where Bluff Creek actually is, apart from like the History Channel stuff that would just show you a map of where it is, but I don't remember where exactly along. So I'm not sure if it's Northern California. What was that place called again?
It's Bluff Creek, California.
Bluff Creek. Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention, as far as that video goes, that I know you guys have seen it. I sent you a link to it not too long ago, but someone recently stabilized the video of it walking, and if anyone's listening hasn't seen that, go look for it. That shit, I love stabilization technology that they use.
We'll put the link to that in the description for the episode,
because it just it makes everything so much easier to fucking see. And it was a cool video because they played it in they played it and then they played it in reverse, and then so you could see a lot of little interesting details, like the bottom of the creature's foot. You could almost see some of its toes as it lifts its leg, kind of stuff. There's just it was just really interesting. So if anyone who's listening hasn't seen that, go check it out, go find it.
But surprisingly, in 1967 someone had a camera with them while they were out there hunting and stuff.
Dude, and looking at Bluff Creek, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Were they filming the whole time? How much footage did they have?
Like how?
Yeah, dude, because I mean, wasn't
it was like an 8mm
crazy expensive?
But it's one of those 8mm real type of those small cameras.
Yeah. But wasn't that film fucking really cost prohibitive?
I imagine
for hobbyists back then?
Most film was expensive back in the day. Yeah.
And still was, even into the 90s. That's why they made disposables. You throw those at the kids when you go on vacation. Then you use your nice, one for the shots you want to actually keep.
There's been many episodes on TV or podcasts probably that have tried to either analyze and debunk or try to confirm this particular video and the authenticity of this particular Bigfoot footage. But we're not going to get into that. What we are going to do is get into sightings around Texas and exactly where you would find Bigfoot or the sightings most popular in Texas that they would be. So some big names, of course, it's Austin. Maybe in the outskirts, not in the city, obviously. San Antonio area, El Paso, East Texas. And basically the areas where... there's even desert prairies and stuff like that.
Yeah, because that was one thing that kind of tripped me out about in the Red Fern and Gerd book, where there's been a handful of sightings out in West Texas where you don't have the piney woods or
they can be hidden.
Any of that. Yeah.
No, that's the fucking desert, basically.
So that's a trip, and East Texas has swamps. Way less sightings than I thought they would. Yeah, there's swamps. There's also the piney woods all out there. Mm-hmm. But when I looked at that Bigfoot sightings in Texas map itself and looked at the distribution from county to county, it was kind of crazy to see how few there were overall, in areas where, I lived briefly, where people, just random people talk about how there were apparently Bigfoot sightings, right near this movie theater, because there was a little stand of woods there, and I was like, jeez. Cool. But then when I actually looked at Jefferson County, it was no. There's 2, and I think the earliest or the most recent one was like 2004 or something like that.
In the book says that 2009 was the most recent sighting, according to the book itself. But looking at the map here, the most recent sightings,
I think I saw some hits for 2013. I think. Oh, actually, I think I saw a 2018 on there.
Well, actually, in Marion County, Marion County, 2000. Oh, I'm just seeing it right here.
There's a 2019 in Cass County.
Oh, there's number of sightings in Marion County, 2021. So that's fairly recent.
That's
last year. 2020 in Parker County, 2020, there were 8 sightings.
Hunt County, 2020, there were 4.
Class B, Class A. What does that define exactly? Just the type of footage they had, or
well,
something?
It says a Class B possible sighting by motorists in daylight between the lake, the Pines, or city.
Oh no! But Roland was trying to figure out, and I just looking at that now as far as what's considered a Class A versus Class B.
Well,
Class B
I'm
like,
looking at the top here.
Smells like Bigfoot's butthole.
Do y'all see that?
No, yeah, I'm looking at it, but I'm just not sure what a Class A event versus Class B is.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure there's a legend or anything that I can see.
Just going through the motions here.
The unfortunate thing about Bigfoot, at least according to this, is that it's not anywhere in the valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I guess it's.
I mean, you could be hanging out in all the little like palm trees stands and chilling.
We just gotta worry about
sit by a Sable.
He's hiding out in Mr. G's or Rospa stands, or the fucking the fireworks stand as well.
Yeah, that's what happens with them when the fireworks stands are closed. When they're shuttered up, they're fucking teeming with big feet.
Oh yeah. If you break in, they got their own little stove in there and shit like that. You know, it's like a tiny house for a Bigfoot.
Yeah, and they're sitting all pretty, going like, "Ha, we don't have to, waste energy making the what the hell do they call those structures? The Bigfoot houses or whatever that may be
like teepees,
shelters or markers. Yeah, Bigfoot teepees. I think is what they're called.
Oh no, really? I had not.
Yeah. You know what we're talking about, right? Roll, where they have like the stands of trees that have been like bent over each other and make like a little like frame.
Right. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Like
they are. I like watching a lot of bushcraft videos like that because they'll take a guy with a little knife and a hammer and he just goes out there and oh, cool. You want to have a house on a raised platform? Sure, right now. But to think that Sasquatch is out there farting through it, I'm not too big on Bigfoot. I know a lot of the basics, but to me, it's never necessarily been too particularly interesting as far as.
I think for you, it's been like overdone. Like you said, they have research centers now, but the minute they start having gift stores or for like these particular cryptids where they sell like mock foot imprints or Bigfoot backpacks, Bigfoot cups.
I mean, mostly it just I hear about it and I get the urge to go watch fucking John Lithgow and
Harry and the Hendersons.
Harry and the Hendersons, yeah.
So I don't even give a shit. Like all that stuff's cool, man. Like I would totally, get like a replica plaster.
Oh hell yeah, dude!
Foot imprint and just put it on a wall. It'd be fucking cool.
It's fun, I mean, they do that with like the Roswell and they do that in Roswell, New Mexico. Like,
yeah, and actually, it's fucking cool because they have like the cutout metal, like like yard art or whatever. Like going on 77 up to Houston, there's around what is that little shitty Driscoll, which is a little bit south of Kingsville. They've got it's been there forever, but they've got like all those yard, metal dudes and have like the little pinwheels out of metal that look cool.
Right.
But they've got some fucking Sasquatch cutouts like there, and it's fucking cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
As we were driving up and down, seeing my folks, and like, oh fuck, oh there's a Bigfoot one, fuck, cool. Like
just going over the characteristics of a Bigfoot. Majority of the time, they stand between 6 to 9 feet tall, according to just eyewitness reports. Hairy body, obviously, typical head to toe. Just covered in hair, brown. Some are white. Some white. Sometimes they're considered a Yeti, but just depending on the geographic location that they're in.
They have the red eyes, apparently, right?
Some do.
And some
of them
have been
reported
as having red eyes.
Right. And they also have that supposedly they have that reflective film, or not film, layer that like cats have.
Oh, for like night vision shit.
Yeah, so that you see, whenever you, most people have seen these things, wherever they shine a light at certain animals, their eyes seem like they're glowing, and so apparently, supposedly, they have that same
property.
Right, yeah, defining feature. I think there was a YouTube or a Reddit video somebody put out recently of a security cam that had supposedly caught either what could have been some sort of cryptid or possibly explained as Sasquatch, something around 10. They estimated it to be about 10 feet or so tall, and you can sort of see what might be ahead. Peeking through some. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but peeking through some of the foliage or whatever. But then you also see the jewel eye, the flashing eyes, kind of thing. So
the red eyes can be attributed to like lots of particular cryptids.
Rabies.
Most notably, I think it's like the Mothman. That's like one of the big characteristics of the Mothman. Whenever they see him at night, they can still see the red eyes and stuff like that.
The glowing.
Right. But we'll get to something similar to that in just a moment.
What about the Sass stank or whatever?
Sasquatches are supposed to fucking stink. And
was it one of the names from was a stink monkey, or I think some such that some residents of Sasquatch sightings nicknamed him.
But on the subject, I mean, I've relayed this story to you guys, but the Texas Cryptid Hunter, he's got a blog, and I'm not sure if he's got a podcast or whatever.
I think so.
I think you follow him on social media, like on Twitter, Roll, you said?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And I had his YouTube channel or something on his website up. He's got a blog.
Yeah, but on his blog, he has a story that apparently Davy Crockett saw a Bigfoot when he was coming to Texas.
That's right.
And somewhere in East Texas, like in the swampiness, he encountered a being, but it was more like a kind of more of a typical, like almost UFO-y or like a spirit kind of event, because I think if I remember the story correctly, like Bigfoot disappeared somehow, like he like kind of turned into mist or like faded into the mist or something like that, like something kind of spooky or whatever. Okay. And apparently he was sentient enough to like communicate with Davy Crockett, but I can't remember what was allegedly said. But
today in Bigfoot history, 1836, Nacogdoches, Texas, Davy Crockett and the Bigfoot's prophecy. In a letter addressed to Abner Bergen, Davy Crockett recounted the following tale. William and I were pushing through some thicket, clearing the way, when I sat down to mop my brow. I sat for a spell. Watching as William made his good and fine progress, I removed my boots and sat with my rations, thinking the afternoon a fine time to lunch. As the birds whistled and chirped, and I ate my small meager ration, I tapped my axe upon the opposite end of a failed tree I rested upon. Whether it was the axe's disturbance or possibly the heat of the high sun which caused an apparition to slowly form in front of my eyes, I know not. As a Christian man, I swear to you, Abe, that what spirit came upon me was the shape and shade of a large ape-man, the likes we might expect among more bellicose and hostile Indian tribes of the territories. The shade formed into the most deformed and ugly countenance, covered in wild hair with small and needling eyes, large broken rows of teeth, and the height of 3 foundlings. I spit upon the ground the bread I was eating. The monster then addressed a warning to me. Abner, it told me to return from Texas, to flee this fort, and to abandon this lost cause. When I began to question this, the creature spread upon the wind like the morning steam swirls off a frog pond. I swear to you, Abner, that whatever meat or sausage disagreed with me that afternoon, I forswore all beef and hog for a day or so afterward. We all know what happened at the Alamo. Most Crockett scholars ignore this passage as a silly story told to entertain his friend in a personal letter, though some Bigfoot scholars remain convinced that the creature reached out and tried to save the frontiersman the horrible fate that was soon to befall him.
I'm not sure if that trumps the 1875. I'm not sure what year this was supposed to go down, but
well, in 1975 there was a report of a feral boy being captured. So I mean, you could take that for what you will.
Was this boy 7 feet tall?
They don't say.
Government cover-up, huh?
They think he would be 7 feet tall. Like,
you go, when he was fully grown, he'd be 7 feet
when he's full grown, he's going to be fucking
be a big boy.
Enormous.
I do want to go over some of the little instances here in the book that they talk about from the eyewitness accounts. For instance, there was an incident in San Antonio with a man named John Martinez and his friend Rick were rabbit hunting during November 1974, and they reported seeing a 6 or 7 foot tall creature with long matted hair on its head, and their dog even snarled at the menacing monster. I mean, dogs get pissed off at things all the time.
It seems to be always the thing.
And there's another instance where, let me see here. It was Dr. Grover Krantz in 1975.
Guy's a legend.
Yeah, described a sighting which took place 30 miles north of San Antonio at a private lake. The letter writer explained, he received a letter talking about this incident. So the letter writer explained how the eyewitness had been fishing at a small secluded body of water on a 20,000-acre property when he had heard a loud splash. And gazing across the water, the man observed a large gray figure standing on top of a 150-foot limestone cliff opposite of him. And he seemed to be about 8 to 9 feet tall. Can someone properly gauge something that high and then gauging how tall that person is from 150 feet above them?
I mean, it depends what their baseline is, you know.
Right.
Do they know how tall those trees are about and they could scale from there?
Exactly.
Or do they see a fence post so they go, oh, that's a 6 foot
how
fence
are they
post?
referencing?
You know, Bigfoot seems to be like just a menacing character that stands far away from people and kind of just looks at them from afar and then kind of like tries to instill fear just by looking at people and then kind of just walks away.
It seems like a lot of cryptids do that, though.
Yeah.
But, I think I remember reading one account of a Bigfoot trying to take someone's dog.
Yeah, I mean, that's some things like that have happened, like where they've mangled like cats and dogs and stuff like that.
And I know on, I think Phantoms and one of the sites here we got, 40 Research, Phantoms and Monsters. Yeah, there's a few accounts of people, or this one woman that would talk about actually being abducted by a family of them, and she got very specific. I was a woman in her
I think
60s.
I saw that.
So she was in her 60s, and she was describing an event that happened to her as a child, and apparently she still has like trauma from that, and so she's only starting to piece it all together and talk about it. But yeah, it's an interesting little account. I'd need to look through it here, but she described, and she wouldn't give the exact location because they didn't want people going through there and just looking and making a big mess. It's near private. It's near private area, but also, I mean, obviously there was a town in the vicinity. They would every night, or every so often. This happened to her several times. She would wake up in the cave, those kinds of things, or she would, they would come to her house, and she had a room on the second floor for a time, and it would knock on her window looking for her, that kind of thing. And the family would, it's fucking interesting. If anyone listening hasn't looked for it, go to the website. This guy posts a lot of things on Reddit, but he's apparently been doing this for quite some time. His name is the site owner, the guy who runs things, his name is Lon Strickler. I don't know anything about him personally. I don't, if there's any kind of controversy surrounding him, I'd need to look it up. But from what I'd seen of this site the past few months, like it seems on the pretty up and up. And I was talking to you about it the other night, Ray, and the first thing that I mentioned as far as like showing its kind of legitimacy is that it looks like it was made in the early 2000s, late 90s.
Right.
So
yeah.
It's one of those old like blog / like GeoCities Angel Fire fucking websites. And so that immediately gets my attention. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's been around for a while. Awesome.
So again, this is another instance, I believe, in San Antonio or Kelly Air Force Base. Is that in San Antonio or was in San Antonio?
I believe it's shut down now.
Yeah, it was in San Antonio.
There,
yes. No, it's actually shut down. And
really?
yes, it was in San Antonio. There was a gentleman named Ed Olivari, and he saw, I guess, at a 40-yard distance, he watched in disbelief as a 7-foot tall brown hairy creature stood up on 2 legs and ran off like a man into close by the woods. I don't know. That's a weird way of wording that. But he said he was unsurprisingly hesitant to tell anyone about it, what he had seen. He told his mother. He basically told everyone.
When was this again?
Sorry, 1976.
Oh, okay.
That was in 1976.
Because this sounds like something from the 70s.
It happened again. He saw at around 2 a.m. He saw another figure with green glowing eyes standing by a doghouse in his yard. And at first, he paid no notice to the mystery visitor, but later, as Ed lay in bed, it occurred to him that the figure had been far too tall to be a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sure. I mean...
And throughout the night, following that particular evening, there was nights where dogs were howling and stuff like that. And cats were hanging out on the roofs as opposed to just hanging out on the ground. So apparently there were many cats sitting on the roof when a lot of this shit was happening. One more, August 30th. I'm assuming it was the same year. Rose Medina was awoken by her dog barking around 3 a.m, which is also a very bewitching hour time. And saw a furry light brown colored animal sitting on her back step. And basically, she said it looked ape-like and the size of a 9-year-old child. There was a few more instances with that particular, with Rose Medina and Ed Olivares. But again, you want to read more about that, you can check out the book, Monsters of Texas.
Yeah, it's a really short read, actually. I think I blasted through most of it in the afternoon. And that's because I was spending time with it, thinking about it, doing shit in between. Because, I mean, it's only like... I was actually surprised for a Redfern book to be that brief, because I think it was only like 40 pages total.
If you're going to just read the actual text itself, you're going to... It's about 127 pages. One of the last reports that they do give was in 2009. It happened in San Antonio near the intersection of Loop 1604 and Highway 151 near the SeaWorld and next the water treatment facility.
Dude, I had to drive past SeaWorld or... Actually, SeaWorld was near me. It was a little bit past where I was living at the last house. So that was like within a few fucking miles of me as well. And damn it, if I'd only known this shit.
Yeah, this the particular creature left imprints that were like 13 inches long, I guess, with their foot imprint. But there was some speculation that it was an escaped monkey from the Southwest Research Facility. It's a giant monkey man.
Right.
Giant monkey man.
It's a giant monkey man. So that is a very brief introduction to Bigfoot in Texas. So we're going to be moving on to our next cryptid, the Goatman.
Yeah, and Goatman's interesting because he's described as being scaly.
Yeah, right. Which I wasn't aware of that.
With fur scales. And
yeah, that kind of confused me a bit. Most of the depictions that I've read about him, it's essentially a giant satyr.
And so what I will present as an idea that maybe Goatmen are Bigfoot that have that same like mange like dogs and coyotes get that make them look all like give that scaled appearance.
I've read, I guess, differing accounts about how the Goatman is a cryptid and or some sort of occult figure,
right?
In the sense that you can summon it, and like much like some sort of entity.
Well, it has a very demonic type of look. But yeah, Daniel, go ahead regarding that.
Yeah, there's a story or an account in the Redfern and Gerhard book where allegedly it was it might have been the Lake Worth monster.
Oh, okay. So
or a Goatman, but there was a story where a Goatman was released by devil worshiper activities at one point, and brought the Goatman into our world from like a hellish plane. Like it's a pretty metal story,
it's a demon.
But
yeah.
That's the only thing I've seen of Goatman where they talk about that, which is fucking cool though. Like.
We have a little bit to comment on as far as the Lake Worth monster goes, but yeah, that is one of the...
Well, but the thing is, arguably, because the Lake Worth monster is spoken about, at least for the Redfern book, like in the same chapter as the Goatman.
Right.
So I think it might be like a offshoot of it. But as far as geographical sightings, I, really didn't, looking at this list here, like Louisiana makes sense, but Maryland really doesn't. It's just kind of a weird, distribution for Goatman.
And surprisingly, they were all kind of around the same region: Fort Worth, Denton, Dallas. That's all not
right.
They're all pretty much neighbors, Daniel, I did want to go over real quick
what you got?
A little bit expanding on that devil worshipping instance of the Goatman.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't that involve a bridge that it's supposed to frequent?
Yes. So let me start here. It says Lake Worth is not the only location within the Lone Star State that is associated with the dark and disturbing activities of Goatman-style beasts. Another such creature of distinctly Goatman proportions has been regularly reported at the 1884 built Old Alton Bridge in the town of Denton, which is situated approximately an hour's drive outside of the city of Dallas. One legend says that many years ago, wannabe devil worshippers in an area inadvertently opened up a portal to some hellish realm that allowed the vile beasts open access to our world. And
just a second. Just imagine somebody gatekeeping devil worship.
you know what, Roland? I didn't really catch that. I just thought he was just being kind of.
They're just talking shit or whatever. Yeah, but no, take it from the other angle.
Yeah.
Imagine, these guys are fucking wannabes.
They're not real devil worshippers like me.
Like us. Oh man. Okay, sorry.
And continuing on. And now today, and as a direct result of this reckless action, the Goatman has no intention at all of returning to the twilight zone from which he originally appeared. Hence his deep desire to forever haunt the old steel and wood bridge at Denton.
There are quite a few mockumentary style videos or whatever concerning. And I think there was a Ghost Adventures episode too where they went out there and tried to summon the Goatman. And so there's what I meant to say is there's quite a bit of media that folks can find if they want to get a better handle of the area.
Well, and Roland, you may not know this, but it's talked about in the Monsters of Texas book, which is underpinning a lot of this episode so far. But there is a Goatman festival.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure how regular it is or whatever, cool. But apparently Nick Redfern dragged his wife out there because he even talks about it in the book where he's like, I took my wife, and I can't remember her name. He's like, whose interest in cryptozoology is minimal, to put it politely.
Oh, that's awesome.
But apparently they got a bunch of fun stuff, even for the kiddos and shit. And it's just this, day. I think it's a day-long event, but it seems fun. It could be a MoQuest Live thing, maybe.
I'd love to check that out. Absolutely.
It's just such a drive because
MoQuest on the road
there.
Yeah, that's fucking Texas for you, dude.
Well, yeah, but
yep. I mean, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. But this is just what do you expect?
I do want to get into the characteristics of the Goatman. So, what does he look like? What does he smell like? What are his hobbies? What's his favorite color?
Yeah, right. Does he have a Tinder profile?
Daniel, you had mentioned that he had scales. I wasn't aware of that particular characteristic of him.
Yeah, until this book, I thought he was just like a goat, like a furry-looking dude that had horns, and that was it. I didn't know they had supposed to have a scaly appearance, which is cool.
I've only read that, but as a passing detail, I've never, as far as accounts that folks have tried to talk about describing it.
Are these land-roaming mermaids?
It's always it's always just a giant goat humanoid type sort of figure. I don't usually read about them describing it having some sort of scales or anything. I really like the mange theory that you're coming up with there though.
Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, because it could be.
It's certainly an easy association to make to the fact that these things apparently reek like living ass or whatever. So
yes, and as another point for their features,
to groom themselves very, very quite
I
so well.
believe that Goatmen are also bipedal because there are some cryptids that will seem to be habitually bipedal, but they do have elements of quadrupedalism.
Right.
Like one of the cryptids we're going to talk about later that, seen standing on two, but typically its locomotion is done by four.
Right.
Yeah.
but just so in case anyone out there sees a Goatman, they like, or from this description, like they will probably be bipedal.
Right. Hey, he's on 4 legs. That's not a Goatman. That's a crawler.
Once again, the Redfern book talked about them, or at least one of the accounts. I think it was for the lake monster specifically, but description that it's much like Pan from mythology.
Correct.
Right.
And they also do a cool link, because Pan apparently would inspire dread in people, which is what Goatmen are supposed to do as well.
I mean, sure. I don't know. I
didn't source it. I'm just going off of the word of our god Redfern.
Sure.
But
just to throw out coming from the opposite side here, I'm sure you've come across this too, Daniel. Just standard mythologies. Pan's described as a party guy. He's a big old hornball or whatever. He likes to just get drunk and have fun for the most part and get laid. So as far as the inspiring terror or any of that kind of thing, that's a little new to me. But I could attribute that to maybe the more sort of like Christian evolution of Pan, because as you know, like Pan was a part of pagan rituals and whatnot, and so as a way to demonize, and discourage those types of beliefs and ceremonies and whatnot, they would take the features of their particular worship and just twist them. So in the case of Pan, of course, that's where you get like Baphomet, the horned demons, those kinds of things, derivations, right? I think so. If I'm not mistaken, then I could see how that might be explained at that point. But that's still kind of. I'm just trying to make sense of that. It's like I said, that's a little new to me.
There was one instance where I was told of a story of the Goatman here in San Benito, and that was behind this building called Sunny Glen off the expressway. There's some like dirt roads back there, and we did attempt to go and look for it at some point. We drove back there like close to like 10, 11 o'clock at night. Sat there for about an hour, see if maybe we saw anything. Obviously, we did not. But the instance was, or the incident that occurred was that some relatives of a friend of mine were going home. They lived in a trailer, and they happened to see a Goatman cross the path of the dirt road. Kind of stopped in the middle of the light, did its little. I'm assuming that's what it did.
He's just like dancing and
this
shit.
This is just my storytelling here.
River
okay?
dancing.
Yeah. And then ran off. They kind of freaked out. They drove back to their trailer. Then they heard some gunshots coming from a neighbor, right? The gentleman walked over to his neighbor's trailer, saw him sitting on his porch or whatever porch he had on a chair with the gun in his hand, saying that there's something out there that's like messing with his animals or something. So he was going to kill it or something.
It ain't right.
And they just heard gunshots throughout the night, but they didn't hear anything else after that. And the man didn't speak about it any further. So that was the only instance of the quote unquote Goatman. Mind you, it wasn't officially called the Goatman. They just said it looked like a goat man, like partial goat, partial man, whatever. So, but that was the only time I heard about it here in my town.
I just wanted to comment that it's funny you mention somebody shooting at him, because I very rarely ever read any accounts of people actually taking a shot at a cryptid or something. They run away, or the person that runs away, or the cryptid leaves, or that kind of thing.
Well,
but I always thought it was strange though, because this is Texas and everybody has fucking guns,
right.
So.
Well, I mean,
even if you're scared running for your
than we thought.
Well, there was an instance regarding the Bigfoot where some kids saw him near a golf course or something, and they shot him like 8 times, but of course it didn't do anything to the Bigfoot.
Right.
I think guns and cryptids like never mix in the ways that people intend. Like,
right. So I've only read like 1 or 2 accounts of people taking aim at like Sasquatch and stuff, and I think most of the times it just pissed it off. Yeah, and a few here and there of other examples, but for the most part, I'm always surprised because like a lot of these people, quite a few of them are purported hunters, and so just I don't know, like people see weird stuff, they're gonna shoot at it necessarily. I mean, yeah, you're gonna want to be careful, but at the same time too, like I wouldn't put it past somebody to be like, put that up on my wall kind of stuff, you know, like. I remember, I don't know if you guys ever saw this, but like in Edinburgh, there used to be a doctor that I would go to. And in the lobby, he had up on the wall, like, because he was a hunter. So he had up on the wall all these taxidermied fucking animals. Like just at one point, there was a grizzly bear pelt, a full fucking pelt splayed on the wall, you know, like with the head and everything attached. It was fucking awesome. But
that's pretty badass.
It was, you'd sit under these things too. I remember one time I sat under like a javelina head, a full fucking thing, you know, and like he had antelope, he had all kinds of shit. And I'm just sitting, I didn't think of it, you know, anything of it. I just thought, oh, this is cool. I'm a kid, you know, whatever. And then after years later, I'm just like, okay, yeah, no, that's a little different, you know. And it's like, oh, okay, wait, Texas. All right, you know. So yeah, it's just strange to me that, you know, we don't have more instances of okay, say, you know, they don't even kill it. Say they just maim it, you know, you would think that they see, you know, more evidence that it was wounded. Maybe it was bleeding or, you know, some kind of, and that's another thing too. Same said hunters are typically, you know, I would assume fairly competent in their tracking, you know, because in the sense of when you're hunting an animal, you know, say it bolts on you after you wound it, you follow the damn thing, you know, until it either loses or runs out of energy or it dies from blood loss, those kinds of things. And so you're going to look for those, you know, markings on the trails, those sorts of things. And so I never hear of people finding any kind of like path to follow or some kind of, you know, evidence left behind for them to keep looking. It's always just like, oh, they were just wandering around and shit, you know, in the woods trying to look for these things. It's like, what? So it's very strange to me that we don't have more evidence, I'd say, as far as all of these things go, just in Texas alone. Well,
that puts every cryptid into question, though, doesn't it? I mean, you think by now there'd be a lot of evidence of a lot of these things, like official,
as opposed to all the dog shit videos that everyone always puts on YouTube and Reddit and everywhere else. They're just like, dude, what the fuck? You know, what are you doing with your fucking Nokia or some shit?
There's TikTokers right now getting like crazy ghost footage right now over there in like Pakistan and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's fun.
And yet here, all we're doing is doing Randonautica stuff. You know, so
yeah. So, anyways, my rant's over there. It was just something that is bugging me, and that I wanted to get a chance to, you know,
just beware. And again, a lot of times when we talk about cryptids, we are doing this as kind of a information for those who live in certain areas. If you happen to see one of these creatures, and unless you've heard it from someone else or you've heard it from us, particular ways to protect yourself, it's best that you run.
Right.
But take out your camera and like film behind you at least, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Don't forget.
Don't forget to take out your camera though.
You dumb bitch.
I mean, for God's sakes, like everyone can take out their camera and record fairly quickly. So
yeah,
you can run with that thing like just behind you like that, you know? So
yeah, just turn on selfie mode or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Be running and
everybody
shit
does it. Just do it.
Face.
Just fucking do it already. You know what? And I'm gonna encourage people, if they don't have some sort of like gun or knife or something on them and they're gonna run, film it, but most people should have some sort of light source, so turn on your light too so you can get a good image quality if you're in the fucking dark. Just do it.
We need to get some drones going. I want to go back to that place, Ray, and take Jamie's
GoPro.
fucking
If you're going to go run in White Rock Lake
vision.
or some kind of place like that, make sure you strap that shit to your head. Make sure you have a light on you, and then boom, like we will have this footage. Even if you get mangled to death, that shit will be up in the cloud, and we can all see it. And then we can all prepare.
Why is it only
encounters.
the people with a fucking plan are the ones that never find shit? And it's always the motherfuckers that are just like taking a shit in the middle of nowhere or something that
I
come
literally
across.
got my GoPro on me at all times. I got like 2 cameras going at all times.
Yeah.
Man. Come on. something.
I don't get it.
That I can see.
I don't get it.
From the safety of my car, outside of my car. Please just do that. Like,
you're just waiting for it. Or
I can't be outside walking when I see this shit because, like, I'm not gonna run. Right? I'm not in the shape to do that. I'm gonna fucking die.
Yeah. Accept your fate, Ray. But
yeah, I guess. Hey. But for the good of Valley Strange, for the good of the world, I guess I'll have to sacrifice myself for that. So in that case, we're gonna move on to our next cryptid, Skinwalkers.
Right. So I was chatting with both of you about this before. There's the I guess the arguments for Skinwalkers, as far as I understand it, is that whether it's it's considered a cryptid or not. I would have to err on the side of, I guess, the mythological beliefs, or rather associations that it has to actual people. That is to say, it's I believe Navajo shaman, Navajo witches of some sorts. That they're real people that can shapeshift, as opposed to actual, well,
I mean, isn't it also like some of the lore around Skinwalker Ranch where there was a curse put on the land, which I'm not sure if that was supposed to make more Skinwalkers or it was the initial curse of the Skinwalker or whatever. But yeah, I don't know if I would classically put these into the cryptid category. I
still thought it was obviously worth mentioning because as we go through Texas Cryptid, it's everybody fucking lists it on here. Skinwalkers. It's, so it's like, okay, cool. It's worth going through, but in the same sense, like I'd have to, I don't necessarily think it falls into the cryptid category. It'd be more of a, supernatural kind of.
Yeah, because this is a human being that has been transformed into this.
Some kind of.
And I guess arguably werewolves. No, so it might be like a type of.
Yes, there is. We do have a little honorable mention in here as well that I believe it was in Concord, Texas, and it might have been another sighting in the 70s or some such. I don't remember. I need to look for it, but a lot of it I think would fall under the association of a Skinwalker type sighting. But
Well, I mean, that would make sense for Texas because, I mean, a lot of the people here have some kind of Native American.
Right.
Well, yes, there are Native Americans still living in Texas and not too far off into like Oklahoma and stuff like that. So like it would be
right. And then
it would make
like
sense that those particular cryptids would
it's right abutting, the Four Corners areas, which, the fucking New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, where you're supposed to, where the primary sightings of Skinwalkers are reported. So yeah, it's not out of the question, I would say, to find that kind of stuff here either. What is it? Where is it specifically? Northwest Texas, that people are purportedly having these.
Where's DeSoto, Texas? Where's that at?
I have no idea.
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
It's the hill country, so that's like El Paso, fucking,
Do you think that most cryptids in general keep themselves in the hill country primarily because of maybe it has more opportunities to hide, more opportunities to kind of
they're more likely to be left alone
into like certain crevices?
DeSoto is right outside of Arlington.
Okay. Yeah, Arlington.
So that's in the Dallas area.
So, Roland, the characteristics of a Skinwalker can pretty much anything in this case, right? It can shapeshift.
Right.
Into
so
any
this
sort
could
of
be
animal.
another case of a fucking duende. It's some kind of.
But
it varies.
Or
they
a
can
lechuza.
stand up.
Yeah. Or
right.
Because
like,
is a lechuza an actual cryptid, or is it
it's supposed to be a witch
undergoing transformation?
Right.
Yeah.
Through supernatural means.
So yeah, there's a quite a few solid associations there. I would say between like the lechuzas and the Skinwalkers. which would make sense if you just going by like the association of a culture, Mexican culture, Native American cultures. It's essentially they're parallels to each other, cousins, sort of thing. So maybe this is just another example of that overlap that we've come across as far as some of these distinctions that they're trying to make between them. I don't know, but it's super interesting. I come across a lot of different descriptions of skinwalkers. I don't know that I'd be the best to make some of like their general descriptions. Ray, could you maybe or Daniel take a crack at that?
You basically said most of that, Roland. I mean, as far as like me looking at certain descriptions of a skinwalker, they can be pretty much anything.
Can you maybe try to like summarize some of the more general descriptions just to because I don't think I did a good job.
They look like coyotes and
yeah, kind of like dog-ish looking
kind of
dudes for the
cane,
most part, as far
almost
as like
werewolf-like,
they're transformed. A reverse werewolf where you become like just like the wolf instead of like a hybrid human wolf like thing
that can stand on two legs.
In fact, I'm just looking at the legend here. It says like animals associated with witchcraft usually include tricksters such as the coyote. However, it may include other creatures, usually those associated with death or bad omens. They might also possess living animals or people and walk around in their bodies. And skinwalkers may be male or female. And again, you talk about like the Navajo tribes and stuff like that. That's usually where they stem from. But associated types of cryptids, so to speak, the deer woman. We talked about even a warlock and a werewolf. Skinwalker could almost be like like you said, like almost duende.
Like
they can shapeshift
of the Navajo. Like it's basically some sort of shaman or witch, a bruja or curandero kind of stuff. There's a lot of, I don't know, what seem to be a lot of association, or they seem to have quite a few things in common.
Do you want to go over like the Reddit posts that we found, which is I guess an account. The skinwalker or other entity, which is, again, someone determining whether or not it is actually a skinwalker or something other kind of cryptid. But I'll read this part here. It says, this happened when I was 10 years old in Texas. We had gone out to a family party in DeSoto, Texas. It was probably close to about 3 a.m. Again, 3 a.m. This is that time again.
The witching hour.
All the adults were inside talking and drinking, as they should if you're at a Mexican party with children. Mm-hmm. While the kids were out in the backyard playing in the bounce house that was ordered.
Yeah.
Dude, can they have a bouncy house overnight? I don't recall that. They usually pick it up like around 7 or 8.
Yeah, that's true.
A bit into the fun we were having, we started noticing a strange smell, which I would now consider the smell of sulfur. Usually associated with like the devil or some kind of demon entity.
Typically, yep.
When one of my cousins had pointed out a goat near the fence in the field just watching us. So being kids, we all get up against the little net to see it. Now the strange thing about it was the way it let its mouth hang open and how it was standing in the tall grass with its legs wobbling like he was going to fall, just staring at us. So we all decided to go for a closer look, not thinking much of it. And that's when it got even weirder, when the goat started making what sounded like excited grunts. And when we got near to the fence, it let out a human-like but very distorted yell that sounded like it had its own echo, and it bolted for the fence on its hind legs and its front legs loose bouncing around as it ran. Mm-hmm. So it stood up on two legs, right? Basically.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was like bounding around like a goon.
So we all screamed and ran inside, and some of our parents heard us scream and met us at the back door and were able to see it run off into the tall grass, letting out the same yell. Upon telling everyone what had happened, our grandparents were convinced it was an evil spirit and began saying prayers and flicking holy water around the house.
I thought that was fucking hilarious. Yeah.
Considering they were Catholic with very strong beliefs, and our drunk uncles and fathers went out with guns looking for
There it is.
There it is.
Exactly.
Dude, I've been to this party. What's going on? Like, that's kind of what happened when my mom and my aunt saw Lechusa in my aunt's backyard in the pool and shit. There was no holy water, just a lot of cussing though. But they were drunk.
Guns. There's guns.
And it says, and shortly after everyone came home, everyone decided it was time to go home. What was it, fucking 5 a.m. by now?
Right. I see the sun rising. All right, pack it up.
And a few weeks later, my grandparents decided to move because they also began hearing something shaking the fence in the middle of the night or grunting, and what sounded like something choking, moving around the backyard, and an occasional knocking on the walls. Anyways, that's it for the story back then. I never knew about things like skinwalkers and such, and for the longest time I was convinced it was a demon or the devil in disguise, since that was what my grandparents and aunties claimed it was. What do you guys think of this? And it said, no, we did. That was an edit to the story. No, we didn't just arrive at 3 a.m. We had been there since 5 p.m.
People always have to ask stupid fucking questions. Just to clarify.
With all of these like Reddit creepypasta-esque sounding things, you know, I automatically talk about how this happened when I was 10. This happened, you know, 30 years ago. I'm like, well, fuck you. You have no credibility anymore.
Exactly.
Like, you know,
it's like, oh yeah, 10 years ago in Texas.
I mean, unless they can find someone without discussing it ahead of time that corroborate this exact story, then I would like probably give it more credence. It seems like a typical Mexican gathering that I've been to plenty of times.
Time, baby.
I mean, I've been outside in my front. I recounted the story whenever we did the ghost school, the haunted schools episode. Whenever I was outside with my cousins and we're all playing hide and go seek in the front yard, and it was about 3-ish in the morning. My uncles were drunk. My aunts were inside watching TV still, and of course, we had a barbecue that particular evening, and that's when we heard that noise coming from across the street from the school.
Yeah.
And I was the only one that heard this. Many other people heard this. But the thing is, a lot of people who I remember being there and a lot of instances that I recall, like those people don't remember any of that stuff. But I mean, my life was pretty boring. So that could have been a pinnacle moment in my life. And then I'm just another fucking weekend fucking around. So they just forgot about it. No issues. But in my mind, it got burnt, you know, so.
Sure.
But anywho, that is a story of a skinwalker. And some of these comments were, someone suggested it could possibly have been a Goatman cryptid, the name of which I can't recall.
One fun little thing that I don't know if we'd mentioned it before, but one of the comments was that like they were pretty specific, saying about how not all the skinwalkers run on 2 legs. Sometimes they run on 4. And then he actually he gave a name for the ones that run on 4, and I'm gonna butcher this horribly, but I assume this is Native American. I don't know what Native American language it would be. If it's the Navajo, sure, but it's the Yenalushi ones that move on all 4s. The guy said these are people who aren't necessarily raised like you or I. They are raised to skinwalk. And then he drops that name and then mentions about how, you know, not all of them can run on all 4s, as some are recruited as adults, which that's where I'm just like, but oddly specific. So that's still kind of interesting. There are a lot of fun little comments that you can find in all sorts of places. A lot of these I've actually seen linked or reposted on, personal blogs and those kinds of things. The Texas Cryptid Hunter guy has some of those. The Lon Strickler as well has sent a few links to because this is off of the subreddit R Skinwalkers, and if anyone wants to check it out themselves.
Okay, so our next cryptid on the list are pale crawlers.
The pale crawlers, which I think I'd read about these guys once upon a time, but completely forgot about this cryptid.
Yeah, because of as far as the descriptions go, and I was chatting with Ray about this the other night. It falls somewhere between what might be a skinwalker and possibly a gray.
Slender Man sort of bullshit. Even though we know Slender Man's bullshit.
That's what I was thinking.
The description,
like
though,
the baseline to description is what you're getting at. I follow. So that I was reading about these. They're okay. The little I know or have read specifically about grays, they're fairly diminutive little guys, right? They're not necessarily very tall, unless I'm mistaken. Or can they be?
I thought they were supposed to be 6 to 9 feet or some bullshit.
I thought they were little.
No, you're talking about grays.
3 to 4.
Oh, grays are
tiny.
3 to 4 feet. Yeah.
Okay. So That being said, they have the pale skin, the pale gray skin, the sort of the large eyes, the sort of ovoidish, I guess, skulls, somewhat oval or typically associated with the shape of a gray. However, that I think is where the comparison folds a little more into a skinwalker in their height. They're anywhere between 7 to like 10 feet tall. Their forearms, I believe, are supposed to be longer than
their upper arms. Yeah,
their upper arms.
My thing is like, aren't ours already like that? Like,
well,
I was looking. I was like taking a poop, looking at my fucking arm earlier. Like,
in the sense that
the forearm shorter than the upper arm, or
well, Daniel, have you done that test where you put your arm out and
you gotta run on 4 legs and just
swing it up here?
Oh.
It sounds like I popped my shoulder out of the socket, and I already have shoulder issues, so I think I'm just gonna have to wonder.
So yes, but again, like back to it's their proportions are super exaggerated, apparently, to a sense that they can stand on 2 legs and they have a humanoid sort of profile, but when they decide to move, they drop down to all 4s. They're supposedly they stink pretty bad as well, like possibly a cryptid. Possibly as like a skinwalker, and they have I believe grays are supposed to be a bit more less animalistic. As
they're
far
robots,
as
bro. They're drones.
Yeah,
man.
Exactly. They're drones. They're piloted remotely and stuff. The crawlers are supposed to sound much more guttural. They have what could either be described as just some sort of bestial cry or a high-pitched shriek. And they supposedly eat whatever the fuck they can find. One of the descriptions that I came across for them mentions that they will just, one of the reasons that they stink is that they eat whatever the hell they can find, roadkill. They're carrion feeders of sorts.
Isn't that the case with most cryptids? I mean, they kind of just eat whatever they can find.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's instances where the Goatman is like either mutilating animals or Bigfoot's mutilating.
Well, I mean, these guys can't go to HEB, so like I don't, drag on them for hitting roadkill and stuff.
Right. I mean, they're probably.
Money is.
I mean,
they're animals. There
aren't that many instances nowadays where there's a lot of dead animals just lurking about, unless they're hit by like a car or something.
Shopping at Whole Foods.
It's because the cryptids are getting them.
Well, no, they're probably going behind an HEB or a restaurant and just eating the trash from there. I mean, there's a lot of
they're dumpster diving.
They're freegans.
We're freegans.
Excuse me, I forgot. I apologize to any of our freegan listeners.
Well, I mean, you do what you got to do if you're going to eat something. We're not knocking you necessarily, but you just might share some sort of survivable qualities with a cryptid. And that's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there really isn't.
It might smell the same, jumping into dumpsters and stuff. So like,
there you go.
There's another subreddit devoted to crawlers. I believe it's like our crawler sightings.
Yeah, it's called crawler sightings. Yeah, and like that account was like whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But they have a lot of the same sort of information that we just sort of went through here. But aside from that, I can't say that I've specifically read much or heard much about a crawler.
It's always questionable whenever there is a drastic number between how tall they can be, between 5 to 9 feet. That's 4 fucking feet.
Yeah.
That is a drastic number.
So it's either this tall or almost twice as tall as that.
And we saw that kind of like descriptions with the duendes as well. They can be 3 or 4 feet. They can be 6 or 7 feet. They can
be whatever the fuck they want.
They can be happy. They can be mad. They can be sad. They can be angry.
Right. Yeah. So, again, that's I don't necessarily know of specifically where they're sighted. I think it would probably be along the.
Has there been a Texas hit for pale crawlers at all?
Well, yeah. I don't know that they would have been reported as a crawler. I still think that a lot of them fall under the category of somehow a skinwalker or something along those lines.
Oh, so you're thinking that there may be some misidentified pale crawlers out there?
Possibly. but only because compared to, I guess, the information about Skinwalkers, there's just not as much to, I guess, to make them distinct from
just
that,
to give
that I can think of.
Our listeners an idea of where these sightings have occurred or can occur for a pale crawler. Regarding the U.S., it's Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, Manhattan, Detroit, Florida, Utah, Texas, and Massachusetts. That's what they say. That's not official. That's just someone's description here.
Just like, here's what I have to say about pale crawlers.
I would have thought that this would have been another East Texas out that ways kind of.
But the descriptions themselves like lend themselves to other cryptids as well. So like you can pretty much gauge where they would be sighted also.
It's hard to nail this one down, I'd say. But I still thought it was interesting to mention. There's not really a whole lot else that, to go through. Most people that encounter them run the fuck out of there. Or, they don't stop. They keep going.
Without taking out their phone and filming, for God's sake.
Yeah, right. And it's usually they're encountered at night. I think I read an account of one of them that is able to mimic human speech. And there was a gentleman, supposedly a hunter, went out hunting at night. He wanted to use his, he bought a brand new fucking night vision scope for his rifle. And he went out there, and I don't remember where this was reported, but he supposedly spotted something along the description of a crawler. He was at a distance away from it, and he sees it, and it strikes him as odd because it's standing on it walks around on two legs, and then he sees it go sniffing the air around an area that he was just there, and so he was thinking to himself like, did this thing just catch my scent? And he sees it, sit down on all four legs, lean back like a dog, and in a feminine voice scream out, "Help me! I'm lost!" And he's watching it through the scope. It doesn't know where he's at, and until he slowly picks up his gear. I think he was something like 100, 150 feet away. But he starts packing his shit up because he's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm not sure what this is, but I don't think you should shoot at it, because he wants to err on the side of caution in case, it's some asshole, or maybe it's dark and he shoots at some kid or something. But it hears him, and once it hears him getting up, it apparently supposedly it gets on all fours and starts to try to run at him. So he yells at it. Fires off a couple warning shots, and that's when it kind of runs away. It stops when it realizes that he's armed, and then it runs off into the brush. And I think at that point he just takes off, bat out of hell as fast as he can get there. So for the most part, like that whole account, when I read about it, the first thing I thought was, this sounds a lot more like I would think a skinwalker would be described, but. Or a hairless Bigfoot, I don't know. But yeah, a lot of the other accounts that I tried to find were something, as far as the descriptions go, and their behavior was something similar to that. It's just some sort of bestial humanoid type thing. I don't know. Have you guys come across much as far as any of that?
Pale crawlers? No, not at all.
I mean, like I said, it may have been one I've heard about, but I totally just put it in the back of my mind. I was kind of surprised to see it pop up on this list, actually, because I was like, who the fuck are these guys?
Yeah, so again, like when we were searching through, I pulled a lot of stuff out of, Google, Reddit, and YouTube that I could find, and
yeah, but it was just
the stuff I was coming
cool
across
thing
was
that you want to throw out there. And
exactly.
I dig it.
And
I don't know a lot about it. It's all.
Sure. No, I just wanted to sort of reiterate a lot of the links of people asking about Texas cryptids or just cryptids, in this area kind of thing. Most of these ones that we're covering here were ones that people always mentioned. The Bigfoot, the pale crawlers, the skinwalkers, and then this next one here that I want to use as a segue to get into, which
let's
I
get
think
into BEKs, man.
One of the real interesting ones. But I think Ray, you should go into that one, because as far as I'm thinking, you've read more about this than I have.
I wouldn't say I've read more about them necessarily.
There's a whole lot. Okay, a lot of the
as a horror movie fan, I have seen lots of movies on black-eyed children, and one recently on Hulu, which you should check it out. It's a good one. Gave me the little creeps. In fact, gave me the heebie-jeebies when I was watching it, because I was watching it like at 2 a.m. with all the lights off, and I was alone in the house with just me and my dogs. And at some point or another,
Chrissy was not
well, if we go with the lore where they kind of like knock on your door and pretty much are asking you to come in and stuff like that. It happened to be that scene in the movie where the kids were like knocking on the door, and I just so happened to see a light of a shadow of someone walking across my front porch, literally at the exact same time. So I kind of freaked out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. But it were the cops looking for someone, probably a murderer or something. There were like 4 or 5 cops out there, like with their flashlights, running around my neighborhood and stuff. And it just so happened, one just so happened to cross the line inside of my door window near my porch, and it kind of reflected, and it freaked me the fuck out. So
cool.
I've
always thought the Becks were interesting, but
Did the shadow announce it was a police officer?
Well, no. What I did was turn off the TV and like scurry my way over to the window, so like maybe I won't get noticed. But then I just see a bunch of cops out there. So
you just yell, "Identify yourselves!" Never mind.
We've come to kill you.
Right.
So black-eyed kids, very, very scary. A lot of people are afraid of these black-eyed kids. I mean, a lot of people are afraid of kids in general. And if they're coming in hordes with no eyes and they have that real, let us in, please. Can we borrow your phone? Shit, like that freaks people out.
Get us in our car, We don't need to go far. No.
Well, we just need a ride. Like, get the fuck out of here, kid. You're gonna die.
Please, can I please use your phone? Like,
step off, bitch.
So it's like these guys like follow vampire rules, but I haven't really seen anything to indicate like super strength or anything like crazy or even like super speed or whatever. It's just
they just
kind of show up and they persistently bug whoever it is to allow them access into their space, whether it be a car or their home or whatever the fuck.
It's like some kid coming into your house or like trying to come into your house, like, you have snacks? Like, no, I don't got snacks for you, motherfucker. Get out of here.
Yeah, I love snacks. That's cool. Me too. Fuck off. A lot of the accounts that I've read about these black-eyed children, typically they're never let into, or like the people they speak to, they never comply. It's like, let me in the car. I want to call my mom. Fuck you and your mom. They just take off, or I'm not letting you in the house.
I was gonna ask, like, I don't know this for certain, but if you look them in the eye, does that affect you in any way? Like,
well, they're supposed to incur a sense of dread,
right?
Yeah.
And the one like famous case that happened here in Texas, I can't remember where the fuck it was, but it was the guy who was. He was in his car, and he went to go like pay his like light bill or whatever and drop it in the overnight box.
So he was the guy that made the first report on. You're talking about what's the guy's name? Oh, jeez, I was just looking at it. It was in Abilene, Texas. Brian Bethel. In 1996.
Yeah, this case is famous when people talk about BEKs. Like
it's not the earliest.
I believe talked about this guy's Chilluminati. I think talked about this case.
Right.
And I'm sure a bunch of others, But
so this is just the earliest sighting that was reported. These apparently have been noted as far back as like the 1800s, and they're not cited only specifically in Texas alone. It's an international phenomenon. They're seen all across the world.
But just the big point is that this episode's covering
Texas
cryptids that are in a lot of places, but they're also here in Texas,
right? And so. It just so happened that this was apparently one of the best, I guess, accounts of them. The guy was a journalist from Abilene, Texas.
That instead of like summarizing, why don't we just read the article here? Because I think that would just give a more be more informational.
Yeah. Okay. I can read it here.
Go
I think.
Go ahead.
While it may not be the earliest sighting of all time, the earliest reported sighting of the black-eyed kids was in 1996 by Brian Bethel, a journalist from Abilene, Texas. In his report, he describes a late evening out in his vehicle. He'd stopped in a parking lot near a movie theater to write a check. He was so absorbed in this that he didn't notice two young boys approach his car. He didn't notice until the older boy tapped the driver's side window. Bethel rolled down his window and noted immediately a soul-racking fear, though he could not understand why. The older boy said that he and his brother wanted to catch a movie, but had forgotten their money at home. Could Bethel give him a ride? They assured him that it wouldn't take long, they were just two kids, and that they didn't have a gun.
Likely story.
Right? Only in Texas.
Yeah, of course I don't have a gun.
No.
Mr. Stranger.
Give us a ride in your car.
We are unarmed.
Yeah. I'm just trying to imagine how the fuck does that conversation go? Jeez. Bethel found the assurances unnerving. Well, no shit. And noted that the last showing of the film they wanted to see had already started and would be nearly over by the time he could drive them anywhere and get back. In his recount of the incident, he stated that when he broke eye contact with them, his fear became all-encompassing. And it wasn't until he broke eye contact that their eyes became completely blacked out. The older boy began to get frustrated when Bethel made excuses for not giving them a ride and said that they couldn't get into the car unless Bethel said it was okay. After that, Bethel tore out of the parking lot. To this day, he still stands by this story. So,
I wonder what his words were before he tore out of the parking lot. Fuck you, kid. Fucking.
This is why I hate children. Ah, yeah. Or, I don't know. That's definitely giving you some Lost Boys vibes or whatever.
This is why Jackie and I got that abortion.
Right? No, he just drives out of there. Well, I'm sterile. So have either of you guys found any accounts of when people actually, try to help them kind of thing?
No,
that's the one thing. And actually, I was talking to old Jamie at work yesterday about that because I was like, because I mentioned this episode and he was like, well, what cryptids you going to talk about? And I brought up BEKs and he wasn't familiar with them. And, but one thing I mentioned to him was like, you read accounts of BEK activity, but you've never, or at least I have never come across an account where whatever result of someone actually allowing a BEK in. It's always that kind of creepypasta-esque kind of, and then they went away after I ignored them for 45 minutes or whatever the fuck.
I've come across a few, but they are very, it's very iffy as far as their descriptions go. To the accounts, it seems like some kind of creepypasta
because I haven't heard
thing,
like what the downside is as to if you let a BEK in.
I would say that the downside to maybe dealing with the BEKs is that you don't live to tell the tale. Maybe you end up dead. So like all the tales that we hear are from people who actually just escaped and didn't really comply with their demands.
That's fair.
So some of the accounts that I've come across, and I'm talking about like one for every couple of dozen. No, it's probably a higher number than that because I could probably count on my hand a few times that I've found some example. They're never very specific. The only similarities that they have is that when the children are let in, they do their business. They apparently call somebody, and one of the descriptions was a black vehicle shows up. They just get in the car and leave. Aside from that, what the strangeness, the further strangeness to that is that after the fact, apparently the people that let them in, the people that live in those houses, they come down with some kind of ridiculous illness or freak, affliction, heart attack, or they develop some sort of cancerous or tumorous issues throughout their body.
But they're relating that to them possibly encountering these black-eyed kids.
So for some reason, I can't remember why, I think some of the descriptions were people that had been like sort of exposed to radiation, essentially, as far as like how they're, what happens to them, as far as like the damage that their bodies, I guess, undergo. For the most part, though, it's very touch and go. I'm not sure that I can lend any credibility to that because again, like these are just things that people say on the internet, so they could be full of shit. One of the things we'll go into here in a quick minute as a fun shout out, kind of has some of these fucking debunked instances or whatever. But as far as the black-eyed kids go, yeah, I thought it was kind of strange because originally I always thought that they're supposed to be children, right? I know I've seen reports or accounts of people talking about adults with black eyes, more elderly folks as well, that have, that same phenomenon. And by adults, I mean like there was an account I read about a guy with his dog near I don't know what area it was of Texas, but he's just near a forest clearing. And a woman like in her 20s walks out and the guy commented, just like, oh man, this chick is hot. Because typically as well, the black-eyed children, they have like sort of old, out of fashion clothes, right? They usually have some kind of something from like turn of the 18th,
a throwback of some sort, yeah.
Yeah, turn of the 18th, 19th century type, formal wear. And as adults, or like in this instance, when the man was describing this woman, she was wearing like tight-fitting jeans and a leather jacket, kind of thing. And he was like, she was hot, or whatever. And then later on is when he has the experience with her of the black eyes and whatnot. And, when with her asking him questions about how she needs to go with him and blah, blah, blah. She needs help and stuff. And of course he gets freaked out and leaves. And she, typically these black-eyed entity encounters end with them just walking off and disappearing into either the sticks and into the trees, or some accounts of them just flat out vanishing into thin air. And the same goes with the elderly accounts of them that I come across. Some comments to those specifically were just, oh, those aren't Becks. Those are Men in Black or whatever, because they're adults or that sort of thing. So I don't know. And I just wanted to mention that because it's, again, this is another thing of where it's real fucking hard to nail this stuff down to specifics, because you have these like strange parallel overlapping almost descriptions.
Pretty much BKs can happen anywhere. Just be wary of any children you come across who are constantly or trying to be like subtly aggressive about coming into your car, coming into your house, asking to borrow a phone, asking to borrow a cup of sugar, maybe some water, maybe a glass of milk or something. Yeah. And there might be multiple children available or children
they
present.
Usually show up in pairs, right?
And if they have a very please let us in, we just need to use the phone, or we're thirsty, can we have a glass of water? You said there's a fucking hose.
There's a hose right around the corner.
There's a hose around the corner. You go have yourself a drink, right?
You can drink your tap water there.
I think we should know this by now. Don't let anyone into your house that you don't know, even if they are kids. Like, fuck them. They can sit on the porch, call the cops, let them sit on the porch, right? Do not let anyone into your house. I mean, there's instances where, I'm pretty sure you all have come across where even adults would come in and like knock on your, like tap on your window and like ask you to roll the window down. I'm like, fuck, no, I'm not rolling down the window. And they're not black-eyed kids. They're just fucking adults that I don't trust in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not going to fucking open my window. Or I've had plenty of times when I've had neighbors that I don't know of either. Mind you, I never met them. This is in the past. This is not recent. Where they just move into the house and the kids come over and start knocking on my door randomly in the morning, in the afternoon, and stuff like that, asking for stuff. And at some point, you give them water because they want water. And then at some point, you're like, tell your parents to turn on the water in their house. Just leave. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be a dick or nothing, but I don't trust you. I don't know you. Like, and I don't want
my kid.
I don't want you like coming in to try and steal anything in my house. I'm sorry. Like,
and that's because I know my neighbors. Pretty much all of my neighbors are on the street. They, I talk to, say hi and those kinds of things. They ain't gonna fucking come up to my door and ask me for something. Get the fuck out of here, man. Unless it's important. You stay the fuck over there, buddy. I'll make you some cookies for Christmas and send you a package in the mail. That's it. All right. So.
All right.
So yeah, don't trust nobody you don't know.
Trust no one. How about that? Trust nobody.
Easy rule.
Yeah. But shall we soar into our next cryptid?
Our next cryptid is Big Bird, or known as just a flying creature. And no, it's not the lechuza, which you all have heard before.
No.
This is
think more Thunderbird.
Thunderbird, pterodactyl, if you will.
Yeah,
we Roland, you gave a bit of a description about this, or a bit of a history whenever we did our lechuza episode about thunderbirds and how like they some of these occurrences represent something more prehistoric and lore from like back in that has gone back like millennia. So
right,
but
so
also with but on top of thunderbirds, which we can just let people go find that out for themselves. You know, they can go listen to our Lechu's episode and learn about them.
That's an easy way to get started.
Or Quetzalcoatl, or however the fuck it's actually pronounced.
Well, it's also one of the largest. They also gave that name to one of the largest prehistoric birds.
Word. I mean, and speaking of prehistoric, there have been instances of these big bird cryptids where they're like they've been described as like pterodactyls.
Correct.
And shit.
That is to say, they have leathery wings with arms, usually attached at the top, as opposed to pretty much kind of like a bat. I believe they're described with simian facial features, characteristics. And human. Well, it's got a humanoid body, so it's got legs
it ranges from that to also just big fucking birds. Like
right. Excuse me.
You know, as we have sightings here in the valley, most of them, I think some of them did fall in the category of potentially like a prehistoric, description.
Bird.
But for the most part, they're big fucking birds. Just
there we go.
Big
not the
ass birds.
They have a wingspan of like 8 to 12 feet. That's one of the
big boys.
And
massive.
I think they're like 5 to 6 feet tall birds. I mean, I would get freaked out if I saw a huge bird. You know, I don't want to see a fucking huge bird in front of me. You know, that could probably like kill me. Let's talk about where we can find these big birds. A lot of them are in the Rio Grande Valley here. Yeah, those are the ones that you would see if you're driving around San Benito, Harlingen, Brownsville, anywhere in the valley. This is pretty much our claim to fame as far as like cryptids are concerned. This is where most of the occurrences happen here in the Rio Grande Valley. And
serious investigations have ensued by cryptozoologists.
That's correct. There's an account in the 1970s, one of the big birds sighted, says it left no evidence behind other than sightings and one attack over a brief period of time, and there are theories. Says the big bird isn't the adorable one who lives on Sesame Street. What a crock of shit there.
They called it that because it's
called
Big
Bird. Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, this is funny. It's like a demon. Let's call it
the same report that I'm going to talk about here. There's various reports or various records in the book as well. They do talk about this incident, and there's another article from My SA, which is I guess My San Antonio. It has actually a newspaper clipping. It says San Antonio, Thursday, February 26, 1976. Teachers buzzed by big birds. And so basically in this account, it says January 1st, Tracy Lawson and cousin Jackie Davies were playing outside when they saw the creature. And it was over 5 feet tall, had dark red eyes, bald head, gorilla-like face, and a long beak. The avian emitted a shrill screech, yeah. And the next day, their fathers saw 3 toe tracks pressed about an inch into the ground, and the family dog stayed inside of its doghouse, leaving only to go into the house for dinner, and then it had to get forced back outside. And in January 7th, the policeman, Arturo Padilla, saw something in the headlights of his cruiser. It was a huge bird. Minutes later, fellow officer Homer Galvan sighted a large black silhouette gliding through the air. And another person, I can't pronounce the first name, Alversio Guajardo, spotted the creature and described it as looking like a bat. We do have a lot of bats here in the valley, just FYI.
Yep. Yeah. I get them flying over my house usually every other night.
On January 14th, Armando Grimaldo heard a sound like a bat's wings flapping. Could have been a bat. Suddenly, a large talons grabbed him and tore his shirt. And it was a bird-like creature with red eyes and a monkey-like face and no beak. It says, about this time, several school teachers witnessed the strange bird with a wingspan of at least 12 feet across. One of the teachers performed some research and discovered a picture that looked like what they saw. And the image that the teacher found depicted a, what does he call it? Tetrasaur?
Oh, pterosaur.
Pterosaur.
The P silent. So like a pteranodon or a pterodactyl.
Yeah. You see, I was thinking pterodactyl, but I wasn't too sure if I was going to jump to that conclusion with that. But
you're right. Yeah. You're right.
But apparently that caused a little bit of reaction. There was some jokes and stuff regarding the big bird. It says initially the big bird was a target of jokes, including those said by Johnny Carson on his national television show, which is good. The Valley made it to national. You know, whenever there were the riots occurred in San Benito High School back in 1999 or 2000. Those also made Jay Leno made jokes about that shit.
So then he bombed. I got it. Cool.
Yeah. And as the sightings continued, a radio station offered a reward for the creature's capture. A television station broadcast a picture of an alleged bird track that measured about 12 inches long. And the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department feared hunters might mistake and protected large, rare bird like the whooping crane for this strange, mysterious bird. Subsequently, they made the public aware that all birds were protected by state and or federal law. Cryptid law, justice for everything, people.
Justice for everything.
Don't just like the lechuza, you know, just because it strikes some fear into your heart doesn't mean that it's going to do you no harm. I mean, I don't know what this particular police officer was doing that allowed the bird to kind of come in and like attack his shirt or something or strike at him.
No idea.
Maybe he was harassing the bird in some way. It says some giant bird sightings are revealed as hoaxes or misunderstandings.
And if you are that bird that got harassed by a police officer, please contact us at MoQuest Law.
Yes, 555-555-555.
We will represent you.
Remember, justice for all cryptids.
For everything. We got you guys.
Our bird law specialists are waiting.
We'll work tirelessly.
The giant bird theories is that it was the Mothman. That was rejected, mainly because the descriptions are too different and this creature's sightings were limited to West Virginia. Mm-hmm. The Thunderbird, and of course the pterodactyl thing. But they're just giant birds. I don't think any one of these have been captured.
No, we would have definitely heard about that shit.
But Ken Gerhard, the guy who wrote this Monsters of Texas, also did write another book called Big Bird, Modern Sightings of Flying Monsters. There is a chapter in this book called basically Flying Creatures, but this is a whole book dedicated to the subject. So if you want to check that out, you can. And basically, there is a drawing in here. It says sighted on December 25th, 2013 at 12:58 p.m. flying over Judson and 1604, and this is in San Antonio because that's where he's from. Basically, looks like a pterodactyl.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's pretty much what's on the cover. At least I think that's kind of like what's on the cover. Doesn't have that monkey face that people were describing.
No.
In the book, they do describe basically what this creature is in the front of the cover of his book. One of them described the tail as being the tail of the devil. And I'm assuming that's the person's limited.
It's a fork tail.
It's not even like, it's like a triangle tail.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The little spade or whatever.
And I'm that kind of response is, I guess, to someone's limited knowledge of what the devil or Lucifer would look like. I mean, this is just general pop culture pictures that they're pretty much stemming from. Any other things regarding the big bird here, guys?
No, just apparently like it was really refreshing to see that apparently in our region there's a huge occurrence of them, and enough to draw attention from, cryptid hunters. It's cool stuff, man.
It's just a quick detail here. I don't think you'd mentioned it, but it does say that in Big Bend National Park in 1972, 4 years before the first sightings of Big Bird, they found fossil remains of the largest known flying pterosaur. That's what I was trying to mention before, Daniel. I forgot to say him, the Quetzalcoatlus. And so this could, I mean, I think it'd be a pretty fucking nifty if this was an example of just like a very insanely rare animal that, you know, sort of cohabitated along from prehistory, like the coelacanths, and I forget what other ones that they found of things that are basically essentially living dinosaurs that were supposed to have fucking died out forever and a half ago. I think this one's kind of interesting and plausible, mostly in the sense that, or because of, you know, growing up in the valley, like there are fucking birds everywhere here, and then you find out later on that this is actually a bottleneck where, you know, one of the biggest places to find just every kind of goddamn bird under the sun coming through here. So because of their migration routes and stuff, a lot of them come through our area specifically. And so to me, that kind of tracks along with, you know, this being something that, you know, might very, very likely be possible or probable, excuse me.
Word.
All right. So
birds.
Big old birds. Again, if you want any more history on thunderbirds and a little bit more lore behind that, check out our Lechusa episode. We go pretty deep on that one as well. Our next cryptid we're going to be talking about is the Donkey Lady of San Antonio. I found this one somewhat sad, and
the story is sad.
It is sad,
but it's that kind of general, kind of like La Llorona kind of.
Yeah, this is one of those stories that must not die kind of feeling narratives.
Right. So there is a bridge in San Antonio. Is it called Donkey Lady Bridge?
I don't think it's the official name.
I don't think so. I don't know.
I could have sworn I saw something that said like Donkey Lady something. I'm pretty sure that's not the name of the bridge though, but I guess that's what it's known for since the lore is attached to it.
That would be fucking funny
bridge, though. But
you know, next time I go to San Antonio, I'm gonna just ask a local, be like, "Where's that Donkey Lady bridge at, man?"
Yeah, geez.
And they're gonna be like, "Oh, son, it's gonna be right over here, and it's gonna be like right near there, like where we used to live again, Daniel." I'm like, "Wow, I can't believe it."
Word.
So according to the lore of the Donkey Lady, it says in the 1950s there was a woman of didn't say years, it just says years. This is terribly written also, who was horribly burned in a fire, resulting in her freakish disfigurement. The woman was cast out and banished, forced to live alone in the woods. That's kind of shitty. That is really shitty. It says, now she, or perhaps her ghost, haunts the area. It is said that if one parks near the bridge at night, turns off the headlights, and calls out her name 3 times, she will appear.
Donkey Lady. Donkey Lady.
Geez.
Donkey Lady.
So that's supposed to
be. Are you going to
be
say
the
like,
same as,
like fucking Eddie Murphy in Shrek?
Dude.
Oh, jeez. The fucking donkey from Shrek.
Donkey Lady. Donkey Lady.
Donkey.
Lady.
It's fucking funny.
It says it is said that if one parks near the bridge at night, turns off the headlights, calls out her name 3 times, she will appear. In this respect, the story mirrors the other notable urban legends, including that of Bloody Mary, as well as La Llorona. And there are variations to the story, and many San Antonio residents have claimed to have had frightening experiences at this location. One interesting twist is that there used to be a phone number that was circulating, which was said to belong to the Donkey Lady. And if you were to call this number, you would inevitably be rewarded by the sound of her hoof beats drawing ever nearer. Goddamn, like she was disfigured. I mean, did she fucking like get hooves when she was like disfigured in this?
Well, she was on fire, and the shoe she was on, she stepped on some shoe horses.
And they got seared through her fucking hands and feet.
Or horseshoes. Yeah. And so she claps along now.
So now if you say Donkey Lady 3 times, you're going to hear the...
Damn right. You hear the coconuts from fucking Monty Python, dude. Yeah.
Clapping. Nice. This is supposed to be a sad moment, guys.
According to this article here, someone did drive out there and said they arrived at dusk and was surprised to find one of the most serene natural settings one could imagine, with a charming little creek surrounded by lush woodlands. And the old stone bridge was quite narrow and quaint. and I immediately walked across and called out to the donkey lady thrice, but to no avail. However, I did notice that some nearby rapids sounded like clip-clop in certain spots. Man, they're really just trying to find something there.
They're painting a picture, you know.
And occasionally I would also hear a sound like a door creaking, although I never found the source. And after a while, I decided to ascend down to the water and take a look. To my sheer and it says ascend. It would be
it should be descend, but whatever.
Yeah, descend. Yeah.
Like that's confusing enough, but all right.
I went up and down to take a look.
Thank you. Perfect.
Like somebody had a thesaurus and was just like, or just a dictionary.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that word sounds awesome.
I think they fucking got it backwards. So
to my sheer and utter amazement, there was a lone hoof print embedded in the creek's muddy bank. I took a photograph
definitely
of it.
A rider we got here.
But strangely, I am not able to download the image onto my computer, and every time I view it on my camera, it freezes up.
Fucking creepypasta.
Kind of like my camera overheating constantly right now, and Daniel's monitor fucking losing its shit. There's a
cryptids don't like it, man.
There's a paranormal cloud over all of our Valley Strange episodes, guys. It's fucking up with our technology.
Anytime that everything that I do here works without a hitch, that means there's something wrong.
No, there's something wrong, and something's gonna happen to me and Daniel's shit, and not yours.
Then that's how we know. If
that's what we're gonna ask. Roland, you having trouble there? And he's like, yeah. I'll go, Daniel, we're gonna be all right, man. We're gonna be all right.
Gonna be fine on our end.
Thanks for asking. Fuck you guys. Yeah, whatever.
You know, it all started, Roland, when you said you fixed that fucking writing error on that P4 there.
Oh, God damn it. Yeah. All right.
Everything's working fine now. And then fucking camera overheats.
Kiss of death.
Yeah, monitor's going fucking crazy. Thanks a lot, Roland. You have cursed us.
I'm happy to be of service.
Yeah.
As always.
The curse of the Roland lady.
I thought you were gonna say like Donkey Roland or something, but all right.
Hey, relax, man. Calm down. There was a story here of someone. It says it's titled "Attacked at Donkey Lady Bridge." So we'll just go over this one and then we'll move on to our last cryptid of this episode. It says I had an incident similar to the one Airborne submitted, and that's some other person. This is another story that they had above this, but I'm not going to read that one. It says, one weekend in 1989, some friends and I were driving around in the 1973 Impala one of them owned, as we usually did. We were showing the younger cousins of the driver, Todd, around, and they had turned 13 that year and were being inducted, whatever the fuck that means. We decided to drive to Donkey Lady Bridge. That's what they call it, Donkey Lady Bridge.
Yeah.
Partly since we had never been there before. Partly to give them a good scare. Any child, particularly the southeast side ones, and they're talking about the ones in San Antonio, that's weird, that have grown up in San Antonio knows about the Donkey Lady. There was even a phone number you could call. We talked about that in a second. Or we talked about that earlier. We drove out to the bridge, turning off the headlights before we were actually on it. It was very eerie out there at night. And it was much more because the almost full moon barely lighting the bridge. Todd started to slowly advance across the bridge when a figure appeared seemingly from nowhere in the middle of it.
It's just a crackhead.
You got any crack? He stopped the car and we whispered.
Your friend said you can give me $5.
He stopped the car and we whispered speculations as to who or what it was. We were not expecting to see anything, much less this. Todd placed the car in gear again and, honking his horn, slowly inched his way toward the figure, which promptly vanished. The car was stopped again, and this made us shut up. Todd sat listening to our suggestions to back up or gun the car to the other side when something landed on the hood of the car. Everyone screamed, and Todd slammed the car into reverse and floored it. The dark figure rolled from the hood, and Todd didn't stop until we had reached the main road and made our way to the Denny's on Southwest Military near Highway 10.
International Highway 10?
Yeah.
See, that story just sounds like the beginning of, like, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
They hit the crackhead, or the crackhead jumped up.
Chases after him.
That's the attack. The car got attacked, basically. All of these stories have kind of the same type of formula. They see it, does nothing, or goes away, or they run away. Yeah. And then that's the end of it.
A lot of these are like gather around the campfire, kids, kind of setups, which.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know about you guys. Did your family members ever like turn off the lights and tell you ghost stories and shit when you were younger?
Nah, dude.
My aunts and uncles did that shit to us all the time, dude.
No, I didn't actually. I didn't start hearing about any of that until because they would tell us these stories. They would tell me I learned about that stuff in school. Like second grade, the teacher would turn off all the lights and he'd sit everyone there and he'd start reading stories that must not die, and I fucking loved it. At that point, this is when I started reading whatever the fuck else I could find. But no, I never ever heard anything like that from family.
Okay, so our last cryptid for this episode is, for lack of a better name, the Jeepers Creepers monster. And I had hoped there would be a better name for that, but since everyone in the Valley is a fan of the movie or franchise Jeepers Creepers,
it's the Jeepers Creepers.
Roland, you want to give us some more insight into the Jeepers Creepers monster here?
I mean,
give us more. Lay it on us.
I guess I'll go ahead and check out the story here. I was trying to find stuff about the Valley, obviously, and came across this one. You've got another link here, I guess, for another area that had been sighted in, but specifically, this apparently was spotted at Las Milpas, the far area-ish. Which, if anyone is unfamiliar with that area, if you go a little further south, you're in the wildlife refuge. So there's nothing but, there's empty fields, and then there's forest, and then it's the river, past that. And so there's some people driving. Let me see here. I'll just go ahead and read the thing here. They were driving south down I Road. It was the mother's sister next to her at the person.
Roland, for God's sakes, read it like you're from the Valley, dude.
Oh, no.
yeah, we were driving down south. That's kind of like probably New Jersey, though.
No, oh God.
Plus, we were with
and
my.
Plus, yeah,
suddenly my mom was like,
south, yeah.
Suddenly my mom was like, "Yes, eso. What is that?" We all looked as she slowed down a bit.
I just want to make it clear to our listeners. Yeah. It's literally written like that. Guess eso. And that's literally written like that.
Yeah, there's like 4 O's attached.
It's too authentic, all right? That's what it is.
It's written too authentic,
anyway, yeah. So it was like a second when they realized the thing was like a man with huge wings struggling to fly. They screamed in panic at whatever the thing they heard, hurt us. It stopped and fell into the monte forest. It was almost getting dark, but there was still enough sunlight to see what they saw. Super scary. I kept screaming, thinking that the thing was going to follow us. We were really in shock. There are things here between us that we don't even know. God, it's written like crap, but they didn't see its face, but they did see what looked like an average man with huge wings. And of course, they put the fucking pictures of the Jeepers Creepers monster there. Shit, with his trench coat and his bat wings and stuff. The shadow totally looked like Jeepers Creepers. I don't know, but I have an aunt that many years ago saw something similar in the far Reynosa Bridge. Jumped in front of her car at night, and she told the U.S. Customs, and they seemed like they already knew about it. She did say that the one she saw had some type of long jacket. Maybe it roams the land in Las Milpas and surrounding areas, but I heard they'd seen it all around the valley.
There was a video that was available here, but now it is not. Just let the listeners know, our source here is the True Horror Stories of Texas, which is a website that's been around for quite a while. And I think the two dudes that run this, they have their own podcast as well. So, I mean.
Yeah. This account was apparently listed here in 2017.
Yeah.
So it's fairly recent.
But yeah, I mean, some of the stories that are like left here are from actual just residents of the valley. They're not like rewritten to like for extra.
No,
they're not written or edited to be on this website.
Punch
they're just
them up in any way.
They're just thrown in as they're written by the actual eyewitness.
The people that submitted the accounts, which is cool. At the very least, I can maybe give them a little more benefit of the doubt as far as that goes.
Yeah.
There was another story that I had under the Jeepers Creepers monster that took place near Houston, I believe.
And Batman.
They call it the Houston Batman. Again, terrible names, guys. Come on.
Which I think that was tied to. There's also like, I think that cryptid, because I went through that article, but I didn't remember reading the incident of the NASA gargoyle that they called the Batman as well. Where apparently there was some dude who worked at NASA that had a few views of a gargoyle looking thing and referred to it as like a Batman. Mm-hmm. But so I'm not sure if this cryptid specifically is like linked to that one, but just when reading through that story, I was like, damn, that sounds really reminiscent of that NASA experience.
Right. Actually, I'll go through this article really quick.
Word.
This one came off the Texas Hill Country, which is, we have a few articles from this website. It says, you probably heard of the Mothman of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The 1960s era sightings of a bizarre winged creature in Point Pleasant became the basis for a book by John Keel, which in turn became the basis for a Richard Gere movie titled The Mothman Prophecies. The Mothman is famous, but Texas has its own earlier sighting of a similar creature. It says, have you heard of the Houston Batman? And it will begin one night in June 1953. A young Houston housewife named Hilda Walker was sitting on the porch of her house on East 3rd Street along with her neighbors, Judy Meyer, 14, and Howard Phillips, 33. And it was a peaceful, though a very hot night. And what happened next shocked the trio. Walker later described what they witnessed. According to the author Nick Redfern, the author of our main source here, Walker stated, 25 feet away, I saw a huge shadow across the lawn. I thought at first it was a magnified reflection of a big moth caught in the nearby streetlight. Then the shadow seemed to bounce upward into a pecan tree. We all looked up, and that's when we saw it. It was a man-like form which stood 6.5 feet tall and sported bat wings on its back. A strange yellow glow surrounded the Batman. They were calling it the Batman. The witnesses sat stunned and watched for 30 seconds. Then the light began to fade, and the figure vanished. Judy Meyer let out an ear-piercing scream. Ah! Immediately afterwards, Walker went on, we had heard a loud swoosh over the house tops across the street, and it was like the white flash of a torpedo-shaped object. I've heard so much about the flying saucer stories that I thought all those people telling the stories were crazy. But now I don't know what to believe. I may be nuts, but I saw it, whatever it was. I sat there, stupefied. I was amazed. Philip stated, we looked across the street and saw a flash of light rise from another tree and take off like a jet. The next morning, Walker made the police report of the terrifying encounter. And it's been nearly 70 years since the flying humanoid was reported by Walker, but has something similar been witnessed more recently. Ken Gerhardt, again, the dude who also wrote this book, tells the story of employees of a Bel Air theater in Houston who are said to have witnessed a gigantic helmeted man crouching on the rooftop downtown in the 1990s. But yes, Daniel, it does seem similar to that.
The Houston
or
NASA Batman.
Yeah, the NASA Batman thing. Yeah. And did he have a dog? Yeah, it was a gargoyle. Yeah. Did he have a dog with him? I don't remember if he had a dog with him.
I don't.
I just remember it perched on top of a building, right? Yeah, it was perched on top of a building, and he kind of froze. And I think he told his wife or didn't tell his wife. But yeah, basically something.
I thought he told his
happened.
Supervisor as well.
Yeah,
and the supervisor's kind of like, hey, like, let's not talk about this. Like, but apparently, like, he wasn't the only dude who had reported seeing like this gargoyle duder.
So if you are in the Houston area, be wary of this creature. And if you are in Las Milpas, far Texas,
keep an eye out.
Yeah, keep an eye out for all these things in the sky. Now, have you all like frequent the far area? You know, when you go past the town, like going down that main road in Far, like it seems to get a little creepier down there. I've never been further down like a certain point, but
you mean Cage?
I guess the
one that's under the expressway interchange.
Yeah,
it's strange going there down that road at night. It feels a lot because it goes from being like very busy and like industrialized near the expressway to just all of a sudden
your fields and
shit.
There's
your fields. All of a sudden you feel like you're just in a little town, like here in Elsa or whatever kind of thing. I used to go out there I used to go out there drinking with friends because there was a basketball court that we would go play at for quite a while. And I always got a real weird sense because I would walk around there at night. Because there was a Wendy's across the street that you could go to or something. So yeah, we'd go and get food. Like I was always weirded out because it was like not even very far away from the expressway, and like all of a sudden, all the noise just cuts out, and you're just, you feel like you're in a different place. And then past that, you're out in the sticks. So.
Right. So that's basically our list of Texas cryptids for now. There are many more, but like lesser known. We do want to give some kind of participation trophies or ribbons to some of these cryptids. One of them was the Lake Worth monster, but that was attributed to like the Goatman also. Like they kind of had the same similarities.
It's also attributed to Bigfoot.
So also attributed to Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And there was the Wild Man of Navidad. That story basically seemed a little on the possibly racist point in time in history.
Yeah, dude.
There was a lot of persons that seemed wild, and like they had to be captured by people.
Right. This is an example of primitive man.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And one of them, Roland, you had mentioned that the Hat Man.
So I had found a few Reddit reports, accounts, whatever, comments to people throughout Texas as well. I only recently found out that the Hat Man was anything at all. It mostly reads just like some sort of shadow figure, shadow entity. That particular phenomenon. But the difference is mainly in that it's apparently this dark silhouette wears what seems like a long trench coat.
Yeah.
And either a fedora or some kind of like old-timey fart hat. The rest of its body is basically shrouded in darkness. But it's appeared in a lot of different accounts. The ones that I read about in Texas was that supposedly someone out in Enchanted Rock spotted him behind a tree, kind of thing out there. Just poke, because there are quite a few different accounts of it saying doing different things. A lot of it seems to be the whole peekaboo thing, where he'll look out at from behind something at people. There are other accounts of it appearing at people's at the foot of their bed, or like next to them when they're sleeping. They'll look at it and they'll see that it has, where it's supposed to have eyes, it'll just have like sockets, and you might see a little glowing white point of light in each, or you just see right through its head completely, through its eyes. There was another account that I found last night of it apparently being more of a benign report, where someone would. This as a kid, he'd fall asleep in his living room, and his parents would carry him to his room. I imagine most people have had that kind of instance or whatever at some point, where your parents would pick you up, or this kind of thing, and move you around. So the reason that this account was notable was that apparently the reverse was happening, which is not a thing that this person ever had happened. So they were carried from their room to the living room. And apparently they woke up midway, and they saw what was carrying them, and it was the Hat Man. But instead of being scared shitless, apparently they were very comforted and gentle, and like they got some strange sense of just
peace, wherever.
Right,
that's fucking strange.
And
so the drugs.
Yeah. So the kid just went back to sleep, and that was the end of that. That was the only account that I ever found of that. So I don't know necessarily. Most of the ones that I came across were of the opposite. It instilled some sense of dread in folks. But yeah, it mostly just sounds like a shadow, some sort of shadow entity kind of phenomenon. I couldn't say it's interesting, but
all right.
There's not a whole lot there.
We're gonna move on to our very, very brief perfect attendance trophy cryptids. Those are cryptids that don't deserve the name cryptid because they're kind of fucking lame.
And category like hard.
The Dogman of San Benito. We talked about this at one point. It was an article that came up, and it was a really flip phone video of some dogman that in San Benito, and it was pretty fucking lame. And it reminded me of the hybrid man dog at the freak show in Brownsville, where it was just a dog.
I met that guy at the fucking Ozfest.
It was a man hanging out with a dog, and they had the balls to call this a fucking freak show. And I was really pissed off that they ate my dollar. So, and then we also have Hogzilla, which is basically a wild hog going around. I think Jamie shoots these things on a regular basis. So I wouldn't really call it anything to be fearful of. They just roam Texas freely. So,
it's a pig, shoot it.
Those are your perfect attendance trophy cryptids, all right? Mm-hmm. They don't deserve the name cryptid. They're just regular things that people just want to attribute to some sort of supernatural element, and they don't deserve it. So,
yeah, but I mean, there's
but
plenty
they're fun.
Yeah, they're
Cryptids
fun.
are fun.
Shit out there. There's a whole goddamn Dogman subreddit, which is awesome.
I won't say that the Dogman doesn't exist. I'm just saying that the Dogman in these particular area, is just terrible.
Yeah, in the valley,
right?
It's nothing.
And I will say that I did put the Dogman of San Benito, specifically that particular Dogman cryptid, alleged cryptid.
I still remember watching that.
For this one specific phone image. Yeah,
there are a lot of minor other mentions that we'd sort of gone over or decided not to bother with. Like there was a lizard man sighting, I think in the 70s or some such, in a place called
it was like Black Bear too,
Honey Grove, Texas. Right, the black bears. There's also the shadow cats, which is another thing that I think is just okay. It's a melanistic jaguar. They're actually their hunting and migrating sort of territories aren't too far off of bordering our areas, bordering Texas.
They aren't, but it's just large black cats are kind of a rare thing, and
absolutely they are. I don't think it's a
cryptid. Also another
cryptid.
Yeah, but it's considered a cryptid because they shouldn't be here, but they are. But I don't know.
All I had to say to that is climate change,
majestic baby. Or magical like other cryptids.
Doesn't exist. Got it, Roland.
Yeah, got it. Awesome. That's all. I'm just making sure that
Jordan Peterson and Jim Brewer said so. So
yeah, enough said. Just wanted to make sure we debunk the stupid science and get on to the real good shit.
Okay, so that'll be it for our first episode of 2022 for Valley Strange, Texas Cryptids.
Fuck yeah.
We'll actually be coming at you with a new Books of the Strange. Just so happens to be, this one again, didn't plan it. It's going to be The Mothman Prophecies by John Keel. We're going to be talking about that book later on in the next couple of weeks. So keep your ears out for that. And we'll be having more videos up on YouTube that kind of help with the narration of what we're talking about. There'll be pictures and stuff. Just bear with us. It takes time to do those videos, so they'll slowly be coming out. So
I suck at this job I'm not paid for, so sorry. I'm just learning as I go along.
So subscribe to our Valley Strange YouTube channel. Subscribe to our CineQuest YouTube channel. We have more stuff coming out for our Anatomy Mixtape also this month, so keep an eye out for that. You can go on Spotify now and rate it a particular star rating, preferably 4 to 5 stars would be nice. If you're listening, if you could do that, right. Please.
If you had a choice, just all the stars.
And it's super.
If you are watching on YouTube,
comment,
if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe if you can do that as well. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Google or however else you can rate us, or share with your friends, share with family members, share with fellow Valley residents that like things about cryptids and Texas monsters and stuff like that. We're kind of new to the game, but not necessarily. We've been going at it for a couple of years now, so hopefully we're getting better and you're enjoying it and you're entertained. Remember, we're not just informational. We're trying to be entertaining as well. So anything else to add, peoples?
No. Just that was pretty fun.
All right. Yep. Hopefully we can get back on schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Valley Strange, we'll see you next time, and hopefully you're listening next time. Bye.
See ya.
See ya, dudes.
Blue midgets come into my house. Hey, Ridiculous. I had some kind of a rectal probe. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I find interesting that a lot of times when we do Valley Strange episodes, there's always some weird technical shit that goes wrong with our stuff.
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yeah, I think we've chatted about this before.
Reacting to us trying to tell the truth.
Daniel's monitor is going off the rails. My camera keeps overheating, and Roland's stuff works perfectly. Interesting.
For once, yeah. Go figure. I did not have to do shit for once. I'm just like, I'll be there, guys, in a couple minutes. Oh fuck, here we go. What? It's working. And then you guys get fucked, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
That's worth reporting, I think.
Jeez.